name is Ray Hobbs, and I am the co-owner of Kgra Digital Broadcast Media, LLC. In 2007, I attended some MUFON meetings. I had a long-standing interest in the UFO subject and had actively investigated and researched UFOs for many years, and I thought that utilizing MUFON would really help enhance my investigation skills. So I started to go to some local meetings, and I wound up joining MUFON, and in a roundabout way, got my own section and became a section director for them. Pretty short order. Had my own club, building my own group, my own investigation group, all the while doing investigations, building my investigation portfolio with MUFON. And was really enjoying it quite a bit. You know, it was really, sort of, my thing to be in public relations and dealing with people and talking with people. I enjoy meeting people a lot. And so I was really flourishing really well, doing really good investigations. The group was just getting bigger and bigger. We would have anywhere from 10 to 30 people every month coming to the meetings from 150 miles away, 200 miles away to come to our meetings before. I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought of ways to get the word out about what we were doing. I discovered, unfortunately, when I began my career with MUFON was right about the time that they had engaged in contracts with Robert Bigelow. Anyone who's in the movement and has followed this, over the course of time knows about how Bigelow engaged in a contract with MUFON and so forth, and the fallout from that whole thing was just awful for MUFON. And I felt like we had, sort of turned into more of a group of people that were set in place to defend MUFON than we were to investigate MUFON. There was a lot of hack and a lot of talk about how MUFON doesn't release any of its information. So I thought, well, I did FM radio for many years, from a young age, and I've had this interest in UFOs, and I just sort of had this idea to kind of marry the two together. So I set out to learn about podcasting and digital broadcasting, and just kind of took in as much as I could, as fast as I could, and I created a show called Eyewitness Radio. And I had a co-host, Royce Fitzgerald, was one of my co-investigators. He was my chief investigator at the time. And he came on board with me as my co-host, and we built a studio and a spare room in my home, and we started broadcasting Eyewitness Radio on an existing network, and everything was great. It was growing. We were getting a local following here in the Northwest Arkansas region. The Northwest section of Arkansas MUFON was really instrumental in supporting us and getting exposure up here in the Northwest Arkansas section. And we kind of sort of over a course of about a year began to develop a big following in the Midwest, and it was really a lot of fun, man, and it was really gaining momentum. And then I kind of ran into some contractual conflicts where agreements were passed down to us, and we really weren't cool with those agreements, man. So we just decided to back away from that network and kind of fall back and figure out what we wanted to do with the little show. And so when we left, this network wasn't very happy with us at all. I guess they kind of looked, because I assisted them a lot with audio work and with information, and we were a MUFON sponsored show. So, when we left, I think they were afraid that we were going to pull MUFON from them and that we were going to pull their listeners from them if we went somewhere else. And it's a competitive world. Media is very competitive. I mean, it is. It's cutthroat to an extent, and really, to wrap all this up, to sort of bottleneck this, I got pissed off at what they were saying, and I said, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to go do it the way I want to do it. And so brainstorming meetings began, and I pulled some partners together, and we all had to agree on one thing, or I wouldn't be partners with them, and that was, What we're going to do here is not ego driven. We're going to have an attitude of, we want the boots on the ground. We want people doing the work. We want to highlight people doing the work, no matter how insignificant, as long as it was purposed, and to sort of just get away from all the hacking and the arguing and the belittling and the, you know, the skeptic fights and all that stuff. Let's leave all this over to the side and let's focus on positive things. And the movement needed it, I thought. And so I partnered up with some of my friends, and we started the KGRA on, I think it was February the 28th, 2011 when it was born. And we went on the air on March the 28th. And we've been rolling ever since with it. It's still in its infancy. However, we have gained such great strides in such a short amount of time. It doesn't seem that way, although I still have to keep myself sort of grounded, because we have a long way to go with this project that I began. And it's been a wild ride, I can say that for sure up to this point. But that's how it started. In a nutshell, I thought that the movement needed something better. And that, you know, you go to these paranormal sites, these networks, and it looks like a used car salesman in his off hours playing a clown puked up a bunch of his business cards on a website, you know. You go there and, you know, you click on this, it's not even current. It's like 5 years old. This person doesn't even have the show here anymore. And on and on. And so I wanted to set out to make a clean website, user-friendly website, and I wanted to get some of the most important people that I believed in on that website and on the show, on the network, which, you know, I really don't like that word. I changed to station last year because I think network is played out, you know. Everywhere you look, there's some kind of a network, and there ain't but one show there. Well, you know, I don't know what you're networking, buddy, but, you know, I'm confused over here. So we just decided to say we're a station, because that's what we are. We're a digital broadcasting station, man. And it's important for us to be looked at and viewed as an officially, you know, licensed broadcast station. We're not just some thrown together website, you know, that claims to be something they're not. Our attitude is we want the boots on the ground, as I said before, but they don't necessarily have to be hosts. It's not that important for our hosts and people on our network to be so polished and so I don't want them to be involved in listening to other radio hosts and learning how talk radio works and why we say what we say. I'll take care of that. I'll tell you what to say and how to say it. If you're confused or you think it could be delivered better, or I think it could be delivered better, that's my job as your producer. I want you to just deliver this information that you want to get to the public, and that's how we do it. It's not a matter of having professional talk show hosts. It's a matter of having professional boots on the ground doing the work firsthand, so that you are not hearing second or third or fourth hand and rehashed and retold sort of stories. You know, you're hearing it from people who actually have done the work and been there, and you know, there's no question that these folks aren't armchair researchers or, you know, people just trying to pretend like they're doing the good work. These folks are doing the good work, and they work very hard, and I'm proud of all of them. It's interesting that you asked that, because I was actually on air as a FM broadcaster, air personality, DJ, if you will, when I kind of had my first UFO encounter kind of a thing. And it was the summer of 1990, and I was doing a shift on a local rock station in Fort Smith, and a guy called me. It was, you know, getting close to time for me to get off work. It was probably around 11:30. And he called from a mobile phone in his car, and he said that he was on I-10, which was he gave me his position, it's about 10 miles, give or take, away from me, across the border in Oklahoma. And where our broadcast facility was perched up on this big sort of plateau in Fort Smith, one of the highest points in Fort Smith. And I could pretty much see a 360-degree panoramic view of the city from where we were. The guy who called, or I should say the witness, said that he was on the side of the road and there was a giant object over his head with a bright light on the front of it. And I said, what does it look like? And he said, man, it looks like a submarine, like a gigantic submarine or a blimp or something, no sound, with this just incredibly bright light on the front of it, not on the back or, like a rocket and there's no noise, no anything. It's just dead silent. And I was like, holy crap. So I could see this from there, I'm sure. So I was like, hang on. I put him on hold and I run out of the studio, run out of the sales door in the back, and there it was, just hanging right there off the sky, maybe 30 degrees. The closest thing I can match it to would be like a welded light, but way bigger. I would say it would take a beach ball to completely cover up the light and, the brightness and everything of it at arm's length. You'd have to hold a beach ball out there to cover up all that. The core of it was probably the size of a golf ball, but it just was so bright. That, in fact, was what made the guy notice that something was above him, because he was driving and he was at a stoplight and he could see the shadows moving under the trees beside him, moving. So whatever was emitting this light was moving above him, so he pulled over. We went through the light, pulled over, and saw it. So I'm watching this light drift across the horizon nice and slow. I can't see what's attached to it, but I could see the light that he was looking at, and I was just watching it. I forgot I was on the air. Station went dead air. I run back into the station, and I throw in the longest song I can find just right off the bat. There's 1,000 CDs there, but I know Molly Hatchet, Dreams I'll Never See, is about 8 or 9 minutes. I throw it in, hit play, grab the phone. Are you still there? He was like, dude, what is that thing? You know what I mean? I said, dude, I have no idea. I saw it. I told him. He said, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? I said, I saw it, but I didn't see what it was attached to. And it's interesting that the UFO stuff kind of went hand in hand with radio. And that kind of started my active interest in MUFON. I mean, not in MUFON, my active interest in UFOs. And I began a little investigation group in the River Valley right there where, down there in Fort Smith where I was from, River Valley Investigations. And, some like-minded friends and all just started getting together and going out. And, we would hear from a friend or a friend or a friend of a friend or an aunt or an uncle, when they saw something. I didn't care how old it was. I just wanted to start interviewing people and talking about this. And started reading books, going to the library and, pulling out books. And that was a big part of it, was the library, because when you would check these books out, you would always be a conversation around it, you know what I mean? And people up there checking out books around you and things. I met a lot of people at the library who actually had an interest, people who had sightings. The library was a great place to really kind of network, back then in the early 90s. We didn't have the internet, I think it was Prodigy or something, AOL was still, but libraries is where it was all at. And then, so when I started the KGRA, fundamentally it was natural for me to be coming from a UFO perspective. I'm not a ghost hunter. I'm not a ghost investigator, or, I'm not spiritualist, none of that stuff. And I've never, really been into the Bigfoot thing, although I believe it's highly probable that there's something out there. But I'm not sure, about all of the other investigation type, genres, but UFOs did it for me. ET did it for me. I was a big science fiction kid, Star Trek and Star Wars, and always, have followed sort of a belief that these things were real. Once I started investigating, I learned that I had a great uncle who was a pilot in the Air Force for many, many, many years, flew in World War II, test piloted Sabres, and he told my mother that he had been buffeted. His flight squadron had been buffeted by objects, at high altitude, and I kind of akin the story he told her to the one that Gordo Cooper tells about when he was flying the Sabre and they were buffeted by these objects at high altitudes. It's quite possible that my great uncle Ray could have flown with Gordo Cooper. For all he died before I was born. But he was decorated a pilot and very well respected, and I have to believe that if he told my mother that he was telling the truth. This is one of these stories where a report from a real pilot is kind of sort of handed down through the family, and it came from someone who nobody would expect to lie about something like that. You just don't. There's really no reason for them to, and so. My mother, she's a Cherokee Indian, and she finds it very puzzling that people they have a hard time believing that UFOs are real, or ETs are real, or sky people. And all of my Cherokee relatives feel that way. They're like, they just don't understand why we don't accept it and just exist with it, and sort of embrace it. And those that have the opportunity to engage in the good ones, are lucky, and those who come across the bad ones, what they would call skinwalkers, or these entities that they are nefarious and don't have your best intentions at heart, which they do believe exist. They just really find it perplexing, man, that we don't believe in it, and I get that. You get that. We get that because we gather at big conferences. We come to talk about this stuff. If it ever happens, we're not going to be the ones that come off the hinges. It's going to be all the normal people who are sort of still plugged in. And so I guess to bring everything back to it, UFOs for me has always been what drives me. And I just really want to do something positive for the UFO movement, something that's going to be lasting long when I'm, gone on to glory. As we begin our third season, we really want to refine our craft. There are a lot of people who are copying our business model, new networks and new stations starting, and I think that's awesome. The more competition means more word and more messages are getting spread. More information is getting out there. And so our attitude is to bring it. We're ramping it up this year. We're moving towards TV. We've got the KgraTV.com staged and ready to go. We're working on video and getting producers and equipment, and we want to start taking people live in the field, all over the world. Egypt, Peru, Bolivia, Turkey, wherever the news is breaking and wherever the news is happening is where we want to send our people and where we want to send you. So that's what we're trying to do this year. As well as stay ahead of the game, because you can't sort of sit back and reward yourself with, this is great, we've done great, yada, yada, yada. The way I look at it, we haven't done shit yet. We've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of work to do. It's time to bear down and get after it. It's a lot of work because there's not a lot of big UFO events to work on. So, we really focus on conspiracies. We focus on everything, and all the mysteries of the world are not off the table. Any mystery is not off the table with us. I'm bringing in several new shows from around the world. We're looking forward to working with the Star Child Skull Project, as well as bringing in some correspondents from Australia, some correspondents from Japan, and we're looking at one from Germany as well, because we want to bring people in real time here in the States the information that may or may have not made it to the United States from around the world. There are a lot of great cases from Australia, and a lot of them we've heard from, but really there's a lot of them that we haven't heard the details about, and or from the witnesses about these cases. Some really bizarre stuff, like I've never investigated a case where someone's driving down the road and they see an object in a field to the left or the right, and your headlights, the closer you get to it, your headlights start bending towards the object. and you literally drive off into a ditch because your equilibrium's going off. You think you have to counter those lights going that way, and you're turning the car, and you're actually staying dead straight. It's your light that's moving, and you don't realize what happened until you hit the ditch, and then this object lifts off, and it's like, holy cow, that just happened. I've never heard of anything like that ever happening here in the United States. I think that there are so many stories around the world that have slipped through the cracks, that we have a department now that's looking for people, correspondents and boots on the ground, willing to come to report once a week, once a month, whenever they can, to our listeners on the KGRA, to bring news in real time, as well as cold cases from around the world that are very interesting and very compelling, and also for researchers who are doing the work to, maybe spark something in them. Hey, I worked on a case, that had that same phenomena. And they can link up with this guy that's doing the story and get more information in real time. We really want to go completely international this year, with correspondents from around the world live on the station. So you'll be able to see that coming this year, as well as more television and video. We're going to take it to the world in a way that we've never done before. And so I think streaming video is going to be a real big part of what we do this year as well. That's one of the most exciting parts of it. So I'm really looking forward to that, as well as the new faces and the new personalities that are going to come to the KGRA to talk to our listeners and to the people all over the world. It's a wonderful time to be in my chair most of the time. Most of the time.